Hello friends, this is a video for September 2025. According to many calendars, September is the most pleasant month of the year. It is a time of harvest and fruit picking. In Egyptian calendars, as well as in Hesiod's calendar, for example, which dates back to the period of the 8th century BC, transition periods were marked at the appearance of a certain stars was followed in order to know when the ideal period for harvesting and similar activities begins. So September is often presented as a young girl holding a sheaf of grain in her hands, and it was always the time of harvest. So now we are in that period, and the summer will last until September 22nd, and then the autumn begins. And when the autumn begins this year, it is going to be of a solar eclipse, and we will talk about that in this video. So let's say something at the beginning about lunar activity and transits of the planets. The full moon is in Pisces on the 7th of September, which is also a lunar eclipse, so this is like a very intense full moon when the eclipse happens. And the new moon is on September 21st, which is the eclipse of the sun, which will happen in the sign of Virgo. Then the sun is in Virgo until the 22nd, after that in Libra, as we mentioned. Mercury is in Leo until the 2nd, in Virgo until the 18th, and then it's in Libra. Venus is in Leo until the 19th, then in Virgo. Mars is in Libra until the 22nd, then it's in Scorpio. Jupiter is in Cancer. Saturn is retrograde at the 2nd and returns again in Pisces, which is quite important thing. Uranus is from the 6th retrograde in Gemini, which is even more important. Neptune is retrograde in Aries, and Pluto is retrograde in Aquarius, as we see many retrograde planets. It is interesting that we had a new moon in Virgo on the August 23rd, and now again on September 21st we have new moon in Virgo. Therefore, all people who have planets in Virgo are at some turning point, or maybe they will have two new beginnings. We can also read it as that. So those people who have planets or important point of horoscope in Virgo and are preparing themselves for the new life phase, in which they will relate to themselves and to the world in a new way, they will do well. However, those who leave everything to chance or do not follow the voice of their body or of their soul may be surprised by the events in September and maybe a little bit earlier or a little bit later. By the way, in September, Saturn returns to the sign of Pisces, so Pisces are also here questioning everything they did in the previous 2.5 years. And furthermore, all this is emphasized by the eclipses of the sun and the moon, both in the sign of Virgo and in the sign of Pisces. Also, we all have this axis somewhere in our horoscopes, and this Virgo-Pisces axis requires now special attention. This axis touches at least two areas of life of every one of us, and we will say a little bit more about that here in this video, but in other languages I even described it in a special video lesson that is on my pages symbolicthinking.net, but unfortunately, as you know, I guess I don't have these videos in English, so I will try to explain something here in this video. So if we want to say something in general about September eclipses, we can say that in our personal lives, they will bring a new attention towards the body, towards the daily routine, and will lead us to a better understanding of supernatural phenomena. Why supernatural phenomena? Well, because of the North Node with the eclipse, and because of the Uranus that will be stationary retrograde in combination with that. Which supernatural phenomena, how to relate to that? Is it new technology or just the game, or something is really happening? We will see. But we will definitely learn something about that. Events at the world level will also affect many, and through the same axis, which is our axis of healing and modern technology. This is Virgo-Pisces axis. And the effect of these eclipses will last at least a half of a year. So many things will happen in September, but many in a few months later. Although the universe will send important messages to everyone during September, a lot will happen in the coming months only, as it is usually with such events. But many Virgos and Pisces are not that surprised, because actually the first eclipse on this axis started in September 2024, and many are already preparing themselves for something new. These eclipses will be felt the most by Virgos and Pisces of the second and the third decade of their signs. We talked a lot about Neptune and Saturn traveling together and being key events, let's say. Their conjunction is the key event of that what is happening in the world. I recorded a special video about that. It's on my YouTube channel. If you write Neptune and Saturn conjunction, you will find it, I guess. So what is here interesting is that in September 2025, those two planets who traveled together for some time already and will travel together for a few years more, in September they are separated, as Neptune will stay in the sign of Aries and Saturn will go into the sign of Pisces. And this will happen during the eclipses. Saturn represents obstacles and leads to frustration because of the obstacles. But believe me or not, these obstacles that Saturn brings now can be very beneficial for us. At least we can understand it in that way. So what is it about? Events on the Virgo-Pisces axis have for many years symbolized the terror, so-called terror, of the so-called global health organizations. And they symbolize the changes that somebody wants to bring into the world by using artificial intelligence. Uranus in Taurus supplemented this symbolism in previous years, and Pluto in Aquarius also does that in a large extent still. So, for example, in Czech Republic, where I live, there is some new strategy that appeared now, which is connected the jobs, which should further legally regulate and eventually implement what we have been talked about for several years already. So the goal is constant jabbing of people. I'm sorry that I cannot say normal word, but I guess you know what I mean. And identification by using a QR code that will contain all data about that person. And with that, total control should begin. Somehow similar processes are happening already in China, but not really that. This is only in preparation. We also see that if we want to travel to some countries, we need to fill the formula of to some dates about us, about also, but like the form is there, you need to fill the form, but nobody is asking you to do something and nobody is checking anything. So it seems everything is in preparation, but still not started. Well, Saturn in Pisces in conjunction with Rahu, or to say the North Node, can be interpreted as an obstacle to these events. So although the inventors of the neo-fascism we live in do not stop, they further push this idea, the chances are very high that the project will fail, at least for now. We said these eclipses are not the only one, we have many in this series, so the struggle between neo-fascists and the other side will continue for another year or two. So let's follow the event and see what is happening, but for now it seems we are fine. However, it's interesting also that the ruler of this eclipse is Neptune, and Neptune is in Aries, and of course in Aries there it can represent new health and similar secrets and some kind of mysterious regulations, but Neptune is retrograde, so he does not have the strength to implement what somebody maybe wants to implement. It is going back, something needs to be done about the events that happened in the past. Nothing new can be implemented for now. So in general, since September, the events slowly stop. Everything that was significant happened during the summer, we can say. I remind you that the most sensational event that happened in August was the meeting of two presidents in Alaska. The meeting took place under the influence of the conjunction of Saturn and Neptune. I mentioned that video already, and I told you that there is a video about this conjunction on my YouTube channel. So I'm not going to repeat myself here, but it is clear that the message to the world is that they are looking for the common solution. And most probably again, like at the end of the Second World War, America will join the victorious country, which is Russia again. So who will pay for the guilt? Who will be guilty for this, what was happening? It seems it will be Western Europe or European Union, but we'll see. After all, everything is relative. Nothing is determined on the level of the states and governments. We know that after all of those years, we are following these crazy events in the world. So now we can only believe that on some much higher level than is the level of the governments of the countries, will be made the decision that will somehow save life on Earth. Otherwise can be trouble. So the September the 7th is the total eclipse of the moon, which is happening in the Pisces sign in conjunction with the North Node, so it's quite intense. The situation is eventually lightened by the trine with Jupiter. Jupiter is quite useful now. And the eclipse happens at the 15th degree. This eclipse belongs to the Saros series 128. The previous eclipses from this series happened in 1989, so also 2007 later. But you see that we are all the time going back now to 1989. I talk about that in my video about the conjunction of Saturn and Neptune, because in 1989 the same eclipse happened, and it was conjunction also of Saturn and Neptune. And what happened shortly, let's say, the Berlin Wall fall and the Soviet Union collapsed. So it is clear that during 2025 and 2026 there will be a disintegration of certain alliances and unions. It is even possible to predict the decomposition of America in the context of these all events, and perhaps also, if not the decomposition of America, then the end of the American Empire. At the transition between August and September, last day of August, first day of September, we saw a group of countries that have a future. That was the event happening in Tianjin in China. It was a meeting of the countries belonging to Shanghai Cooperation Organization. Those countries are creating a new world model, and America wasn't there. So this is quite like informative signal. This is the future, and America is not that important anymore. Let's see how they will pay their debts. But I'm not sure that the future of the world is excellent. I'm just saying it is the end of something and the beginning of something new. Although this eclipse is quite dramatic, it belongs to a series of eclipses that is in decline. This eclipse is quite old. So if we are talking here about drama, and that can be definitely drama of the end of something. Drama of the end, let's say. This eclipse will be visible in the central part of the world, which means Eastern Europe, Russia, China, India, and most of the European world, and will have great effect there. And total lunar eclipse is always culmination of something. So I think that what happened in Tianjin could be connected with the symbolism of this eclipse, and maybe think some events that will happen in the next half of a year. This eclipse will be visible in Paris in 8 o'clock 17 minutes in the evening, in Prague 8 o'clock 11 minutes, in Bratislava, for example, in 7 o'clock 17 minutes in the evening, in Belgrade 7 o'clock in the evening, and so on. However, I warn you that the ancient people did not watch eclipses. They hid from them. because they thought that it's not auspicious to watch it. And this eclipse is going to be red, on blood moon. So it's up to you to decide what to do, but it's maybe better not to watch it. Then on the 21st of September is a partial solar eclipse at the 29th degree of Virgo. And this eclipse is extremely interesting from an astrological point of view. It has opposition to Saturn, which again speaks of some major obstacles. So the Sun in opposition to Saturn and the last degrees of Virgo, while the North Node is in a wider conjunction with the Saturn. And all this speaks about the defeat of a certain plan as well as the fall of leaders. You will say, why I'm using plural, how many leaders? Well, I don't know, but it can be many leaders even, as many leaders will not be able to realize their plans or to remain in the position. On the other hand, during this eclipse, Jupiter is in Cancer in the best possible position, protecting us, and it is completely aspectless during the eclipse. And it confidently does its job, standing there, like not being influenced by anything else that is happening around and just protecting. I called my video about Jupiter in Cancer, Divine Mother. Maybe you will wish to see it. It's on my YouTube channel. Furthermore, this eclipse has positive aspects to the major planets, which are in a harmonious aspects also, and this is quite promising. Although we all have to give up many old habits and overcome our internal limitations, all this leads to a very exciting new events. This energy will be felt by most of the people who have planets at the second or the third decade of Pisces and Virgo. They will feel it the most. It can be something very surprising coming out of this eclipse. The solar eclipse belongs to Saros series 154, and this is very young eclipse. It happened for the first time in 1917, in the month of July, and heralded and symbolized the end of the old world. Also, it was some sort of the end. The First World War was definitely marked the entire last century, and we can even say that continues until today, because that's what started with the First World War, did not finish still until now. We are constantly in the wars from that time on. But Pluto is currently in opposition to Saturn in the horoscope of the eclipse from 1917. Therefore, the same war, even if the same war continues now, it will end in a way. And there have to be with Pluto some kind of a rebirth, of a total transformation, total end of something and completely new beginning. Of course, it is definitely connected with that what is happening now in Russia. But as we said, those eclipses on the Virgo-Pisces axis will be happening for a year and a half more, so let's follow what is happening. Let's see further if there is going to be something new. This eclipse is visible in Antarctica, and you will admit that there is more and more talk about this part of the world. Now it became very popular even. Maybe the secrets related to this continent will be revealed, or the ruler will change. I don't know what can happen, because as I said, solar eclipse leads to change of the rulers. Those who rule will not be at their position anymore. For days, we could analyze these eclipses within world events, but that's not possible in this medium. We can't talk here much about that. But let's mention also that Pisces represents artificial intelligence in modern technology today, along with Neptune, Uranus, and Aquarius. So we are too much deep into these modern technologies. It is not possible to give up from that, but at least we can have a critical approach to it, or we can study what else can we do except using artificial intelligence. And I will talk about that in my lectures in Prague this autumn, If you're watching this video and you live in Prague, please come. And unfortunately, as I usually say, I don't have that in English or in some English-speaking countries. Virgo represents work, service, and the daily routine. It is certain that these eclipses indicate a new attitude towards work, and it's quite possible that some people will be out of work, some will work less or in another way. Of course, that can be connected with this artificial intelligence, as many say, there is no need to work anymore. Well, this is the main thing, actually. Those who are now implementing this artificial intelligence, they actually want to say, we don't need people anymore. But we are people who are born on this planet with a purpose. So I believe that there is still going to be a place for us here, everywhere. And it can be maybe even better, but let's just try to be informed about everything. Then Mercury is in the best position this month. It's one of the best. It is in Virgo, and from the 2nd to the 18th of the month, it brings good ideas and good organization. However, it is precisely the period between two eclipses when nothing new should be started. It will be an ideal period for meditation and learning or studying about yourself or whatever, and to process the information that the universe sends to us. But we should not start anything new between September the 7th and the 21st. Let's wait and start. If we need to start anything new or if we need to be more active, let's be active after the 21st of September. Then Venus is in Leo until the 19th, giving everything it touches shine and beauty. It reminds the world of the importance of art, of beauty, and especially spiritual beauty. Today's world misses beauty in art, but that did not start yesterday. It started actually with the avant-garde art in the previous century, also around the First World War. And unfortunately, art represents the state of consciousness of ourselves. So let's try during September to restore art and to restore the glory of the art in a way, if we can, who can. Then we can say also about this Venus that Leos can fall in love, and Libras and Taurus can spend money on everything that shines. But that's fine, we all need this sometimes. Then since the 19th of September, Venus will be in decline in the sign of Virgo, but Virgos themselves will do quite well with Venus in their sign. They can maybe improve some relationship or maybe pay more attention to aesthetic at this time. And exactly that maybe Virgo needs. They need to overcome the challenges of the eclipse. They need to enjoy in the beauty of the world. Then Mars is in Libra until the 22nd, so it's in a quite weak position. It gives great dynamism to Libras themselves, but it's not the time when we can be very active, or others. I mean, Libras maybe yes, but nobody else, we can say. With Mars in Libra, diplomacy is stronger, which is not bad something, and otherwise it is clear that autumn is the time for negotiations and processing of everything that happened during the summer. On the 23rd of September, Mars enters the sign of Scorpio, and then situation change. That happened immediately after the eclipses. So then can start some fights, and fights can be unfortunately quite cruel. Some hidden assertiveness awakens in people, or maybe stronger sexual energy, or maybe there can be a struggle in the field of finances. And that trend will continue in October. So the second part of September and almost all October, we can expect troubles with finances on the world level. Then Uranus is from the 6th of September retrograde in Gemini, which is a top thing. Uranus stayed in Gemini sign for a short time, but will be coming back to this sign from the end of April 2026 again, and stay there for a few years. So now shortly we could feel the influence of it, maybe in the communication field, vibrational medicine, transport, satellites, or something, like that, depend on us. Everybody maybe could have some new experiences in a different field. So from April 2026 later, with other configurations, Uranus in Gemini will be the symbol of that new age. And our lives will definitely change from that time on. However, the set on Uranus needs this special attention now, because this is the planet of originality, of genius, of unpredictability, and it's stationary retrograde. It stays on one point, and it is during the whole September and the first 10 days of October. While that is happening, Uranus is in the air sign, and it's on the first degree of Gemini. And this first degree is the degree of overcoming all obstacles, going to the point, direct. So try to imagine how big frustration can be with this transit, if there is a strong persistence, but also the retrograde movement, which does not enable anybody to reach a goal. Actually, it requires us to redefine something that happened in the past. It's very, very frustrating. This can be very much filled by the Libras, Aquarius, and Gemini, especially those who have planets on the first degrees of those signs, and they can be prepared for the surprises. Surprises can be great here. This also applies on the world level. They can surprise us with something, maybe with these flying objects or whatever crazy like that. Then Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto retrograde from September on, all of those planets, and this is the beginning of the review period we talked about already, which will last from September to spring 2026. We ourselves can contribute a lot to all of those processes that are happening in the world. It is clear that at the beginning of the new era, or we can call it in a different way, that we actually create whatever we want to have, because we create everything in ourselves, and therefore we create everything that is outside of ourselves. So we need to be conscious about everything that is happening. Let's try to be in September as much conscious as possible. Of course, in the time of the eclipses, the unconscious is extremely strong. So it is often not possible to see what is happening or to process everything. But we don't have to be megalomaniac. It will be enough for each of us to do a part of a job, to pay attention on our consciousness and to listen to the voice of the truth within us. And then we will learn a lot, and we will be beneficial to ourselves and to the world. And that is all for now that I wanted to tell you in this September video. All of the recommended videos and contacts will be written under this video on YouTube. If you wish, you can order personal consultations with me based on astropsychology, spiritual astrology, and based on the technique that I use. The name of it is the change of the code, the change of the perception. Actually, by using this technique, we follow that what is in us, we discover what is in us, we change it by changing the view on it. So the only thing that we can change is our perception, and the perception is an extremely powerful thing. That is why they're using medias to create our perception of the world. So we can actually do the opposite if we give it energy and time. And if you want to learn astrology, on my web pages you will find an online astrology school which is in English. It is for the complete beginners and it's online. If you like the video, sign up for my channel, and thank you very, very much for that in advance. I wish you luck and healthy introspection during September, and see you soon.